Hey guys, this is Pastor Harrison. Welcome back to our weekly Crossfire Youth video lessons. I hope you guys have been doing well. I hope you've been able to enjoy some of this nicer weather, just like last week. I'll tell you what, I've been able to finally swim in a pool. Although the water was freezing cold, it felt incredible. And another great thing I'm looking forward to today is I finally get rid of all of this. It's finally gone. I cannot wait to see what I look like with a haircut because honestly, in a way, I've kind of forgotten what I look like. At any rate, today we're going to be focusing on one of my favorite chapters in the Bible. And it's one of Paul's letters. Grab your Bible and open it up to 1 Corinthians chapter 13. Specifically, we are going to be reading verses 4 through 7. So again, that's 1 Corinthians 13, 4 through 7. Go ahead and open that up and then just set that aside because we're going to be using that in a few minutes. But the entire focus of 1 Corinthians 13, it's known as the love chapter in the Bible. So I want to ask you a question, and I just want you to take a second to think on it. What does it mean when you hear love? What do you think of love when you love something or when you love someone? Think about that for a second. There are 4 types of love that I want us to discuss before going into this. Of these 4 types, one of these types applies to this chapter, and it's essentially what the entire chapter is getting at. So the first type of love is eros. Eros love. Simply put, it is an intimate love felt between a husband and wife. So that's eros love. Then you have storge love. This is family love, so the love between a parent and a child, or any kind of family in general. So between you and your cousin, between you and a sibling, between you and a grandparent, between you and an uncle, that's storge love. Next, you have philia love. So philia is brotherly friendship or affection. So this is a love of deep friendship and partnership with someone. And you, in a way, you could describe this as the highest love that a man could have without God's help. So essentially, this is the highest amount of love that a man is capable of without God's help. And then lastly, you get to agape love. Agape love, listen to this. It is a love that loves without changing. It is a self-giving love that gives without demanding or expecting repayment. So agape love is a love that gives and gives and gives and gives and gives, but it doesn't respect anything in return. It's selfless. It's not a selfish love. It's a selfless love. So the entirety of 1 Corinthians 13 is referring to agape love when it's referring to love. So I'm thinking we may make a mini series out of 1 Corinthians 13, but at least for today, we're going to get an introductory into 1 Corinthians chapter 13. So go ahead and pick back up your Bibles. If you haven't opened it yet, remember it's 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verses 4 through 7. The Word of God says, "Love suffers long and is kind. Love does not envy. Love does not parade itself, is not puffed up, does not behave rudely, does not seek its own, is not provoked, thinks no evil, does not rejoice in iniquity, but rejoices in the truth, bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things." So we saw love several times in this verse. Love does this. Love does not do this. It bears blank. It endures blank. It hopes blank. It's all about love. But remember, this isn't talking about an intimate love between a husband and wife. It's not talking about a love between family members. It's not talking a love between very close friends. This is talking about a love that never ceases, a love that never gives up, a love that never quits, no matter what's going on around it, or no matter what happens to the one giving the love. That love never lessens. If anything, it grows and it continues to get bigger and bigger. The reason why I want to focus on this chapter is the world needs love. The world needs Jesus. The world needs the love of Jesus. And no matter how young you are or how old you are, you always must understand the importance of love. And when we live a life for Christ, when we're chasing after that example, doing our best to live up to His expectations and living the example that He has set for us, Jesus is agape love. It's a love without ending. It's a love without ceasing. And no matter how many times you spit on Jesus' face, or you throw things at Jesus, or you say bad things about Jesus, He never stops loving you. He never runs away from you. He never gives up on you. And He never holds anything against you. And He knows that if you're going through a time where you may not love Him as much, or Jesus, whatever, get out of my life, I can't stand you. If you're in any of that moment, if you're just mad at Him for some reason, during all of that time where you may be mad at Him, where you may be upset and frustrated with Him, His love endures all of it. His love bears all of it. His love suffers long and is kind. But I want to go ahead and start breaking down into this verse. So, love suffers long. Love endures for a long time. That's just simple. Love suffers long. And I want you to think about this. If God's love is in us, we will show long suffering to those who annoy us and hurt us. I want you to catch that again. If God's love is in us, not our love, because remember, of the loves that we discussed, filial love, the love, that brotherly friendship and partnership, that's the highest love that we can achieve without God's help. That's the highest love we're capable of. But when God's love is in us, our love transforms into agape love, or at least it should. That's something that all of us need to constantly work on. But that's why love can suffer long. And if you take long suffering, so the definition, or at least a short definition of long suffering, is having or showing patience in spite of troubles, especially caused by other people. So we've talked about this before. People annoy you. People aggravate us. People get under our skin and they just poke and poke and poke because they want to see us scream. Raise your hand if you have someone like that in your life. Raise your hand if you're the one who's done that a couple times to people. We've all done these things. We'd never want to admit it, but we've hurt people. We've said things we shouldn't say, and we've had things said to us that shouldn't have been said. But God's love is long-suffering, right? So if God's love is in us, we have long-suffering love, meaning that our love can endure, and that we have patience to deal with people who are belittling us, who are bullying us, who are aggravating us, and who are getting under our skin just to see us dance around because we're so frustrated. Love has no boundaries. Love doesn't stop at any point. Agape love continues on no matter what's going on around us. No matter what's going on around us. Next, love is kind. Simply put with this, love will be seen in its simplest form in acts of kindness. And when we talk about this love, it doesn't mean you have feelings for someone. It's just you're concerned for someone else's well-being other than your own. I'll tell you this little story last night. For some reason, this was just bugging me, and I had to do this. I look across the street, and I've noticed for about 20 minutes now that one of my neighbor's trunks has been open. It's been open for 20-something minutes. I could have shut it, but I didn't want to touch someone else's things. So I went over to his house, knocked on his door, and when he came out, he was like, hey. I'm like, hey, I just want to let you know, your trunk's been open for about 20 minutes. I just had to come tell you because I just wanted you to be able to shut it and secure your car. Whatever it was. And he was like, wow, there's things in this trunk that I'm surprised are still there. This is such an honest neighborhood. Thank you. I'm like, no problem. You're welcome. Now, I didn't tell you that to brag. That's not a brag on me because I don't want anything for it. But that was love. Just a simple act of kindness. Just going over saying, hey man, there's valuables in your car. You might want to shut your trunk. You can't lock it without it being shut. Simple acts of kindness is where love can be shown. So if you pick up someone's things when they drop it, if you hold the door open for somebody, those of you who are of driving age, if you have a passenger, maybe you're on a first date, open the door for them and let them get in, and then you shut the door behind them. Something like that. Simple acts of kindness. Love is kind. Agape love, the love that endures, is kind. And it goes and goes and goes. But love does not envy. So when you envy something, we are told not to be envious of anyone or anything. Essentially what that means is you really want someone else's things, qualities, or their luck. You're unhappy. When I say their luck, you think, oh man, life is going so good for them. They've got the best books. They've got the best phone. They've got the best clothes. And I've had this t-shirt for 7 years. I want their life. That's envy. You're so unhappy with your situation and with your life to the point where you're desiring after what someone else has. Love is not envious. Love does not envy, because envy is one of the least productive and most damaging of all sins. Adam and Eve, they had 2 children, Cain and Abel. Envy is what murdered Abel. Cain was so envious of Abel that he killed him. And you can find that in Genesis 4, 3 through 8. Go back to Joseph. We had an entire multi-week series on Joseph. Envy is what enslaved Joseph. His brothers were so aggravated and upset at everything that he had that they threw him in prison. They sold him to slavery. Envy. His brothers' envy toward him is what got him enslaved. And then lastly, envy is what put Jesus on the cross. Read the Gospels. Matthew, Mark, Luke, John. It's what put Jesus on the cross. Love does not parade itself. Love in action can work anonymously. It doesn't have to have the limelight or attention to do a good job. When we talk about love parading itself, so we mentioned this earlier, but you don't need the limelight or the attention. You don't need to have the spotlight. So we talked about this a while back where in the New Testament it's saying that don't do things for others to see, but do things to glorify your Father in the secret place. Do things in secret for someone. So if you give someone a gift card, say they're hungry or they did something nice for you, whatever it is, and you go out and you're like, I really want to pay them back for this because I really appreciate what they did. You give them a $10 Amazon gift card. If your love is parading itself, you would be like this. You'd be like, hey guys, hey, watch this. I really, thank you for what you did. Here's a gift card from me. Don't spend it all in one place. What'd you just do? Your love was put on display so people could see it only. Only so they could see it and go, wow, he's a nice person. Wow, she is so sweet. The Bible says that if you do things outwardly for others to see, you have your reward. But if you do things inwardly, so this whole scenario with the gift card, you pull them aside and say, listen, I really appreciate what you did. Thank you for being there for me. I really wanted you to know just a small token of how much I appreciated that. Here you go. No one knows, no one sees it. If your friend or that person tells other people what you did, then that's the other part of the verse getting fulfilled. If you do things in secret to glorify your Father in the secret place, He will reward you openly. Love does not parade itself. So, love is not puffed up. You're arrogant and self-focused. So again, this is the big head mentality. You're all about yourself. Everything you do is a selfish act. It's all about yourself. Instead of focusing on the needs of others, you focus on the need of yourself. Does not behave rudely and does not seek its own. And this is pretty much going back hand in hand with is not puffed up and does not parade itself. You don't behave rudely. You show manners in a way that just shows a good, kind-hearted person. That's just simple and plain and easy and to the point. and it doesn't seek its own. Instead of being a self-centered person, you are an others-centered person, just like Jesus was. Jesus was always focused on making other people's lives better and doing everything he can to make everyone's life better. This is the best way to be like Jesus. And it's the basic way to be like Jesus. Being an others-centered person instead of a self-centered person. Then love is not provoked. This is the one that I want to focus on among several of these other ones. Love is not provoked. You don't get upset. You don't get angry. You don't get mad and flustered when that person annoys you. I need to work on this. I know people in my life who need to work on this. You probably need to work on this. This is one of those things that all of us need to work on, is not being provoked. If someone annoys you and flusters you and aggravates you, don't turn red in the face and get so upset and aggravated. Don't show a different change in heart because you're wanting to get back at them. Walk away from it. Or just smile and walk away. Or just smile and calmly respond. Be gentle. It's not provoked. So if you go off the handle and you say things you're not supposed to, love was provoked. And now that love has been changed. It's been perverted into something that it shouldn't be. Because when you're provoked, you do things that you're not supposed to do. You lash out. You say things, you act a certain way, or you perform in a certain way that you shouldn't be doing. And love thinks no evil. We're going to go through these last ones quickly. Love thinks of no evil. You don't hold things against people. If they did something bad to you, you move on. Don't bring it up. Now, you may remember what they've done, but you don't bring it up again. You don't allow that to resurface in any of the relationships or any of the interactions you have moving forward. Love does not rejoice in iniquity. It is willing to want the best for others. And that's that. You don't color things a different way. You don't change the story up. The truth is the truth. So it doesn't rejoice in iniquity, but it rejoices in the truth. And then lastly, love bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, and endures all things. Bearing all things. It covers all things. So love covers all things. It never proclaims the errors of good men. If they did something bad to you, forget about it. Move on. Don't bring that up again. Love covers that. Forgiveness is where this stems in. When we ask for forgiveness from our sins, God's love covers us and it cleanses us. Believes all things. We always want to believe the best in people. We never want to believe an evil actor occurred or someone was capable of doing something cruel unless the facts demand it. We choose to always believe the best of other people. Hopes all things. Love is not pessimistic, but it's always optimistic. It's always believing for a brighter future and a better tomorrow. And then love endures all things. It doesn't give up. And it destroys enemies by turning them into friends. So the thing that I want you to do, I want you to go back verses 4 through 7. And I want you to replace love with Jesus. Jesus suffers long and is kind. Jesus does not envy. Jesus does not parade himself. Jesus is not puffed up. Jesus does not behave rudely. Jesus does not seek his own. Jesus is not provoked. That's easy to read because we know the characteristics of Jesus. But here's a greater challenge. Replace love with your name. When you do that, does it sound accurate? Does it sound really far-fetched? Does it sound like, oh, there's no way that could happen? If that's the case, and all of us will find at some point in there, that is the case, we have to do a heart check. We have to reevaluate ourselves. So this is just an introductory into this being a possible mini-series on this chapter. But as always, I hope you enjoyed it, and I really hope that you're able to take away the definition and meaning of agape love and apply it to all aspects of your life. Get outside and enjoy this great weather. If you haven't yet, stay safe doing it. If you need me, you know how to get a hold of me. Until the next one, take care.